Is it a cinematic sensation? Is it a masterpiece of animation? Or a terrible train wreck like Jambareeqi check? If a movie needs an exorcism, he'll smite the demon with criticism. If it deserves attention, he'll give it a heartfelt mention. A strawberry rating 1 to 5. Jambareeqi reviews.
When the Lego Movie was first released, people were very surprised that this film based on a corporate brand was more than just good, it was amazing. So the hype for the sequel was pretty high. When visitors from the Sistar system arrive in Bricksburg, a war suddenly breaks out. While Wildstyle feels pessimistic about this new state of things, Emmett is still his usual cheery self. Although he has been having a nightmare about Armageddon, which prophesies a terrible end for everyone. One day, a Sistar soldier called General Mayhem takes a bunch of Emmett's friends away, including Wildstyle and Batman. We're introduced to the Queen of the Sistar system, who ties a contract with Batman, which includes having to marry Her Majesty. She also orders Mayhem to clean up Wildstyle and everyone else, as well as introduce them to catchy pop music. Meanwhile, Emmett has boarded his ship to fly to the Sistar system, but starts bumping into asteroids. Luckily, he's saved by the heroic Rex Dangerfest, who agrees to help Emmett become more grown up to impress Wildstyle. Content. I think the Lego Movie 2 starts off pretty slow, with the narrative being driven by the wedding, which won't happen until much later into the film. We're mainly waiting around for the ceremony to commence, and the film isn't very eventful until then. Of course, this is all to build mystery before some big reveals later on, but it's hard to get into a mystery when no one is actually investigating it. Emmett and Rex are mainly wandering around the Sistar system without a strong direction or any kind of idea where Emmett's friends could be, being more focused on teaching Emmett to translate his anger into violence. Wildstyle is a hostage, so all she can do is protest and complain, while everyone else is distracted having fun. And sure, the decision to make these characters do these things does play into later scenes, but until then, it feels like we're being asked to just wait. This pacing also affects the comedy, I think. The humour is much less snappy this time. I noticed that I didn't laugh that often. It is a funny film, sure, but I wasn't constantly laughing. I think that's because the film is missing its rapid-fire style of comedy it originally created, due to everything being much slower than before. In all honesty, the movie only takes an interesting turn once Wildstyle finds out the truth and all these big twists are revealed. Wildstyle finds out, from General Mayhem, that the Queen really does want to unite both worlds, genuinely likes Batman, and has no evil intentions at all. So the real villain has always been Rex, who, get this, is a more masculine Emmett from another timeline, and he wanted to get revenge on his friends for dancing instead of rescuing him after his ship crashed. But that's not all. The war between these worlds was really a brother and sister fighting each other, both not getting along or playing Lego games together nicely. At first, the film introduces itself as a rescue mission movie, then BAM! Everything changes, and suddenly it's something much deeper. The film teaches that communication is really important, and that resorting to violence or destruction when you don't understand someone else's feelings isn't the answer. That sometimes you just need to calm down and talk things over, or simply present a sign of peace to break the ice. What may seem like a personal grudge could just be a misunderstanding fueled by anger, fear, or hatred. I love that this film wants to promote such a sentiment, while the real identity of Rex shows how forcing Emmett to be someone he's not just to fit the male stereotype of maturity and strength just leads him to losing his best character traits, like compassion and optimism. It's okay for a man to be soft-hearted and childlike in spirit. It doesn't make them weak, it shows that they are strong enough to be themselves and open up their feelings. It's amazing to see a film celebrate male emotions like this, teaching young boys to feel comfortable with themselves, and that aggression isn't a healthy alternative to expressing sensitive feelings.
I'll never grow up to be like you. It's easy to harden your heart, but to open it, that's the toughest thing you can do.
but the film also gets across a really good outlook to have on life. It's mature and sensible to acknowledge when things are bad. It helps us to be realistic about our circumstances. But that doesn't mean that we should give up or resort to cynical brooding. Misfortune and sadness don't have to be mutually exclusive things, because it's how we face our predicaments that's the real test of our character. It's okay to admit that things suck, but don't let that steer you away from making the best out of a bad situation. I'm going to give 4 points to the content. Characters. Emmett's optimistic spirit hasn't changed, even though he's living in a dystopian wasteland now. This sense of joy does make up his character flaw, because some of his worst decisions come from his upbeat, loving nature and ignorance towards evil in the world. However, his optimism is also his strength. He can be empathetic, inspirational, and determined. Also, just because he fell for Rex's lies doesn't make him a bad person. He's just very gullible and easily impressed. Rex took advantage of that weakness. Rex is a hyper-stylized depiction of the alpha male stereotype. The film exaggerates his personality and skills so much that it becomes laughably silly, which shows how ridiculous this fantasy idea of a man really is. He's clearly unhappy and angry inside, as he's replaced compassion with self-entitled rage and insecure egomania, suppressing his sensitivity deep down. It doesn't matter how badass he looks, he's still the worst role model for Emmett. It's his slick confidence that helps us buy that he could really be a good guy, genuinely wanting to help Emmett, but at the same time, there are clues here and there that make the twist believable too. Wildstyle has let the dystopia of her world crush her spirits, feeling the need to brood about things, and can't see why Emmett isn't down about the war too, when really, it's just who he is and what makes him special. I don't think she wants Emmett to change who he is out of spite or embarrassment, but because she fears for him. Can he survive in this new world if he approaches it with high spirits? Can he lead his fellow LEGO people to victory if fighting isn't his best skill? But she has to learn that he can bring his own unique something to the team, an energy that stops everyone from feeling hopeless. It's also revealed that Wildstyle wasn't always this badass rebel. She was once very cutesy, and we also learned that she was a member of the band who produced Everything Is Awesome. It's obvious that she suppressed her history in a bid to clear her conscience of contributing to a propaganda song. But we shouldn't erase who we are, no matter how much our identity is ruined by bad intentions. Everything Is Awesome might have been made by President Business to brainwash Bricksburg, but it's also a song that makes Emmett happy and keeps him uplifted. Wildstyle isn't too different to Rex, going to extreme lengths to cover up who she is, intensifying her instinct to fight rather than listen, and letting her aggression consume her better judgment. The Queen is a fabulous character, a huge diva with a fantastic sense of humor and a big heart. At first she's presented as the antagonist, which we do buy because she has this sneaky, mischievous wink in her eyes. But once the truth is revealed, we can reinterpret everything about her, making her seem really lovable and sympathetic. I especially adored that the twist makes her love for Batman genuine, because I can totally see these two being the perfect match. Egotistical, wealthy characters who still feel lonely despite their privileges. I get why they click. Batman is technically the last superhero around in Bricksburg, so a lot is riding on him. But he loves this position of responsibility because it feeds his ego immensely. Since the events of the LEGO Batman movie, he's learned to appreciate his loved ones more and be open about his feelings, but for some reason, this film still portrays him as lonely and defensive. This is mainly so the Queen can find it easier to seduce him, but it comes at the cost of erasing the progression Bruce made in his own film. Yes, the film jokes about Batman returning to his status quo.
Hey, Batman! How was your last adventure?
Good, really good. Saved the world. Again, learned the value of friendship. I lost, and I'm good with it. And it's totally on brand for me to be a loner with a broken heart. It's what the fans want, so yeah, no, I'm good with it. Just me and Alfred.
But it still feels insulting to his character growth, all for the sake of mining for more lonely Batman jokes and creating plot convenience later. However, it is hilarious and adorable how much he ends up falling in love with the Queen. Seeing Batman of all people acting all smitten and over-the-top romantic is just too funny. General Mayhem is introduced as the Queen's serious right-hand woman, a loyal minion to her system's royalty, who has no time for fun and games. But really, she's just trying to keep up an act to impress our heroes, assuming that Brixburgians only respond to cold seriousness, because that's how they presented themselves to the Sistar ambassadors. She openly admits that communication isn't her people's strong point, but that she did have hope for peace after all the fighting. I'm going to give 4 points to the characters. Animation. Just like the first film, this sequel employs stop-motion CGI, computer animation that's designed to mimic classic brick film. The characters express themselves with a lot of energetic rhythm, displaying magnetic charisma through their personality-driven movement. The rigid limitations of their Lego bodies also help to make their jokes even sillier, because their stumpy limbs, claw-like hands, and bumpy walk cycles add an inherent ridiculous nature to their animation. However, while the characters do like to frolic and bounce, they're given humanity through quiet moments of drama too, not letting their Lego designs ruin the tension or sentiment. It's the more grounded character animation that makes these Lego people feel alive, and more than just goofy toys. My only complaint with the animation is that it's missing the spectacle that the first film had. There was a charm to seeing over-the-top blockbuster mayhem in the form of Lego, and while this film does have its moments of action and an amusing dance sequence, it's lacking that balls-to-the-wall cinematic insanity, the kind that made the first film so intensely entertaining to watch. Sure, the first Lego movie could get a bit too hyperactive sometimes, but there was still something really endearing about its constant imaginative visuals. The only part of this sequel's animation that genuinely impressed me was the creative and fluid shapeshifting of the Queen. She's always morphing into unique abstract shapes and humanoid bodies to help illustrate her points or reflect her loud personality. It's her animation that steals the film, which is great, but highlights how the rest of the movie isn't as visually inventive. With the exception of some Mad Max-inspired stunts and the Queen's transformations, the animation very rarely does anything remarkable for a Lego movie. Don't get me wrong, the animation is very good overall, it's just not consistently creative enough in my opinion. I'm going to give 4 points to the animation. Voice acting. Chris Pratt once again voices Emmett, giving him the sincere enthusiasm that makes him sound adorable.
We have to be hardened and battle ready, both of us.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's why I've cultivated a totally hard-edged side that's super tough and look, a shooting star, make a wish.
Oh no.
What? Can't think of anything to wish for? I always just wish for more wishes, because you can never have enough.
Emmett?
Pratt also dual roles as Rex, playing him with a gritty arrogance, while also having a hint of Emmett there, so that the twist can make sense.
Alright, kid, you listen. You go soft, you're playing their game. You're gonna have to grow up, and grow up fast. Are you ready to do that? Yes, I am. I can't hear you. Really? I was speaking at normal volume.
Elizabeth Banks reprises her role as Wildstyle, giving her a take-no-trouble attitude.
I'm sorry, no entry allowed. Who are you?
Who, me? I'm your worst nightmare.
You're me when I'm late to school and I forgot my homework and my pants are made of pudding?
Tiffany Haddish is terrifically flamboyant as the Queen, bringing a great campiness to the royal diva.
Welcome, guests, to the Sister System.
Help me out, guys. What is this, a talking horse?
Sorry about my appearance. I was in a meeting with the animal planet of anthropomorphia, so I look like a horse. I'm queen, whatever I would not be. I could change my form to something else if this makes you uncomfortable. Hey, guys.
Will Arnett voices Batman once again, and what can I say? Will's Batman is consistently hilarious, especially now that he has to sound over the top in love.
The union of Queen Whatever Watanabe and Bruce Margolis Batman. I will say it is nice to have a vegan option, but we're gonna have to reprint these all in black.
Bam!
I like it.
And instead of releasing doves, how about bats? Ta-da!
Sweet. Oh, I got it. What if, instead of throwing a bouquet, if I throw a batarang, and whoever's chest it lodges in is the next to get married?
Stephanie Beatrice plays General Mayhem, pulling off her tough act and her real good-natured side brilliantly.
So where are we going?
Planet Sparkles.
Sparkles.
There, you will get changed in more ways than one.
What was that?
You do care. I knew there was some sweetness under that darkness.
I'm going to give 5 points to the voice acting. Music. The original music score for this movie, which was composed by Mark Mothersbaugh, is quite outstanding. It adds a gravitas to the dystopia with ominous industrial pieces, creates an atmosphere of uncertainty surrounding the Sistar system with mysterious orchestral ambience, and uses melancholic choirs to reflect the tragedy of Armageddon. It's a great score, exciting, atmospheric, and full of range. This sequel is also technically kind of a musical. There's Not Evil, a song that tries to convince us that the Queen is good through the most unconvincing lyrics ever, and it's her clunky choice of words that make the song so funny. It's a villain song that's trying not to sound like a villain song, and that's comic genius to me. Catchy Song is a pop track that pokes fun at catchy choruses that get stuck in people's heads, by turning an obvious earworm into a hook, and yes, it will get stuck in your head. At first we assume that Catchy Song is brainwashing propaganda, but after the twist, we realise that it's just a dumb repetitive song that cheers up these hardened LEGO warriors, showing that sometimes it's okay to enjoy songs like this. Yes, a lot of pop music is overproduced and emotionally manipulative, but I don't think we should tell anyone that it's wrong to be happy listening to it. If it brings them joy, they're not exactly causing any harm. Then there's Gotham City Guys, a smooth and sultry song about the Queen cheekily teasing Batman's ego, getting him worked up about the idea of someone not being into him. It's got a really soulful sound to it that contrasts against the more aggressive song by the Queen early on, showing her softer side. Plus, seeing Batman trying extra hard to defend his awesomeness is super funny, because he's just so desperate to change her mind. This is later followed by Everything Is Not Awesome, a musical number that turns a real propaganda song into something more grounded, acknowledging that when things are bad, we should address that everything isn't awesome, but not lose all hope. Taking a song that Wild Style originally sang to help brainwash people into ignoring corruption, and making it into a new anthem for finding light in the darkness. Lastly, I have to give extreme praise to Super Cool, a collab song between Beck, Robin, and Lonely Island. They sing the themes of the film and rap about the charm of the end credits. Yes, 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 finally a song that celebrates the underappreciated sequence of end credits. It's funky, funny, and bursting with sincere affection for the part of a movie that most people walk out on. I'm going to give 5 points to the music. Overall, I do think that Lego Movie 2 is a very good film, just not one that meets the same standards of what came before it, or tries anything new for a Lego movie, riding a lot on its twists and surprises later to impress audiences the most. I personally think that Wild Style should have escaped sooner. This would have opened up more creative opportunities for the film, and added a stronger momentum to the movie until the twists were revealed. The Lego Movie 2 has gained 22 points, which translates into 4¼ strawberries out of 5. If you enjoyed the other theatrical Lego movies, then I think you might like Lego Movie 2. I'd just like to point out that the 3D graphics for this video were produced by Rin. If you'd like to commission her for work, here's her website on screen. So, what am I going to be reviewing in the next episode of Jambareeqi Reviews? Well, for a long time I stated that my #1 favourite film was Mary and Max, and to be honest, that fact has changed. Now, I have a new #1 favourite film. And considering the horrible tragedy that happened at Kyoto Animation this year, I think it's now more than ever that I need to discuss this favourite film. Cheerio, folks.